My name is Laura Bennett. I'm 38. Last Tuesday at 2:47 p.m., I was standing in the produce section of Walmart on Market Street when my ex-fiance's mother walked up to me, pointed at my 6-month pregnant belly, and said loud enough for 17 people to hear, "That baby isn't Daniel's. You're a useless woman who trapped some poor fool." My hands were on a bag of Granny Smith apples. I remember because I squeezed so hard one of them bruised under my thumb. Janet Harper stood 3 feet away wearing a cream cardigan and pearl earrings, her face twisted into something between disgust and satisfaction. She'd been saying versions of this for months, but never this loud, never this public. "Janet, please," I said. My voice came out quieter than I wanted. "This isn't the place." "Oh, now you want discretion?" She laughed, sharp and high. "You had no problem announcing your little miracle pregnancy all over town after my son made the smart decision to leave you. Tell me, Laura, how long did it take you to find someone desperate enough? A week? 2?" A woman with a toddler in her cart stopped pushing, stopped pretending not to listen. An elderly man near the oranges turned fully around to watch. I could feel my face burning, feel the heat crawling up my neck and into my scalp. My pulse hammered in my teeth. "The baby is Daniel's," I said. Each word felt like swallowing glass. "He left 3 months after Dr. Morrison told us I couldn't conceive. I found out I was pregnant 6 weeks later." "Convenient." Janet stepped closer. She smelled like expensive perfume and malice. "My son did the right thing. You can't give a man children, you don't get to keep him. That's just reality, sweetheart. And now you show up pregnant?" She shook her head slowly, deliberately. "You're either a liar or a miracle worker, and I don't believe in miracles." Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time is it there. I stood there holding my bruised apples while Janet Harper walked away, her heels clicking on the linoleum like little victories. The woman with the toddler finally pushed her cart past me, eyes down. The elderly man muttered something to his wife. Nobody said anything to me. Nobody asked if I was okay. That's the thing about public humiliation. It doesn't need to be true. It just needs to be loud. Let me take you back 9 months to when this all started. Daniel Harper proposed to me on a Saturday in June at Riverside Park. We'd been together for 4 years. He got down on one knee near the fountain, and I said yes before he even finished asking. We'd talked about kids, about a house on Oakwood Drive, about names we liked. Emma for a girl, James for a boy. 3 weeks later, I missed my period. We went to Dr. Morrison together on a Thursday morning. Daniel held my hand in the waiting room. I remember the magazines on the table, the smell of antiseptic, the way my stomach felt like it was full of stones. We thought we were there for good news. We thought wrong. Dr. Morrison pulled up my test results on his computer screen. His face did that thing doctors' faces do when they're about to deliver bad news, went carefully neutral, professionally sympathetic. "Laura, your hormone levels indicate severe ovarian dysfunction," he said. "Combined with the scarring we found during your ultrasound last year, I'm afraid your chances of natural conception are less than 2%, effectively 0. The room went very quiet. Daniel's hand tightened on mine, then loosened, then let go completely. "What about IVF?" I asked. My voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. "With your particular condition, IVF success rates would be similarly low. I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you hoped to hear." Daniel drove us home in silence. I cried in the passenger seat, watching the trees blur past. He didn't say anything, didn't tell me it would be okay, didn't tell me we'd figure it out together. He just drove, his jaw tight, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. That night at dinner, he finally spoke. "I need to think about this," he said. "Think about what?" "Us. The engagement. Everything." I set down my fork. "Daniel, this doesn't change who I am." "It changes everything, Laura." He wouldn't look at me. "I want kids, real kids, my own biological children. That was always the plan. We can adopt. We can. I don't want to adopt. He stood up from the table. I need time. Time. He took 3 months. 3 months of him pulling away inch by inch, his mother calling to ask pointed questions about our situation, his sister Emily looking at me with pity at family dinners. 3 months of me trying to be enough, trying to convince him that I was worth staying for, even if my body was broken. Then on a Monday in September at 7:15 p.m., he came home and said it. I can't do this anymore, Laura. I can't spend my life with someone who can't give me children. It's not fair to either of us. I was sitting on our couch, the couch we'd picked out together at that furniture store on Hamilton Avenue. I'd been reading a book about alternative family planning. He hadn't noticed. So that's it? I asked. 4 years? And you're just done? I'm sorry. He didn't sound sorry. He sounded relieved. I've already moved my things to my mom's place. I'll come back for the rest this weekend. He left, just like that. Closed the door quietly behind him, like he was leaving for work, not leaving forever. I sat on that couch for 43 minutes without moving. 2 days later, Janet Harper called me. Daniel told me everything, she said. Her voice had that false sweetness people use when they're about to cut you. I just want you to know I support his decision completely. A man deserves a real woman, Laura. Someone who can give him a family, you understand. I understood. I understood that to Janet Harper, I wasn't a person anymore. I was just a defective incubator. I hope you find peace with your situation, she continued. Maybe you could get a dog. She hung up before I could respond. The next 6 weeks were a blur of canceled wedding plans, returned deposits, and pitying looks from people who'd heard what happened. Daniel's version of the story spread fast. Poor guy. Fell in love with a woman who turned out to be infertile. Had to make the hard choice. Very mature of him. Very brave. Nobody asked my version. I moved into a smaller apartment on Chestnut Street, a one-bedroom with old carpet, and a kitchen window that wouldn't close all the way. I kept working at Harrison Roofing and Construction, where I'd been office manager for 12 years. Invoices, scheduling, payroll, answering phones from homeowners who needed emergency tarps or ice dam removal. It was steady. It was familiar. It was the only thing I had left that felt like mine. Then in October, 6 weeks after Daniel left, I started feeling nauseous. At first I thought it was stress, grief, the depression I'd been fighting since the breakup. But when it lasted a week, I bought a pregnancy test at the CVS on 4th Street at 11 p.m. on a Thursday because I couldn't stand the idea of running into someone I knew. I took the test in my bathroom at 11:27 p.m. 3 minutes later, 2 pink lines appeared. I took 4 more tests, all positive. I called Dr. Morrison's office the next morning and demanded an appointment. The receptionist tried to schedule me for the following week. I told her I'd wait in the lobby all day if I had to. Dr. Morrison saw me at 4:30 p.m. that Friday. Laura, I understand you're anxious, he said, looking at my file on his computer. But given your diagnosis, I really don't think. Just do the blood test, I said. Please. He did. The results came back Monday morning. I was 8 weeks pregnant. Definitely, unmistakably, impossibly pregnant. Dr. Morrison referred me to Dr. Priya Patel, a high-risk OB specialist. She ran more tests, did more ultrasounds, checked and rechecked my hormone levels. On a Tuesday afternoon in late October, she sat me down in her office. Laura, I don't have a medical explanation for this, she said. Your ovarian function is still severely compromised. By every measure we have, you shouldn't have been able to conceive naturally. But you did. Sometimes the body does things we can't predict. I'm classifying this as a spontaneous remission pregnancy. Extremely rare, but not impossible. Will the baby be okay? Your hormone levels are normalizing. The fetus is developing appropriately for gestational age. I'll want to monitor you closely, but right now everything looks healthy. I started crying right there in her office. She handed me tissues and waited. Does anyone else know? she asked gently. No, I wiped my eyes. The father left me because he thought I couldn't have kids. His family has been unkind about it. Dr. Patel's expression hardened slightly. Would you like documentation? Something official, in case you need it? What kind of documentation? A letter stating the timeline. Your original diagnosis, the date of conception based on fetal development, confirmation that this is biologically the father's child based on timing. I can't force a paternity test without his consent, but I can provide medical evidence that this pregnancy occurred during your relationship. I thought about Daniel's face when he'd left. I thought about Janet Harper's voice on the phone. Maybe you could get a dog. Yes, I said. Please. That's when things got worse. I decided to tell Daniel first, before anyone else. I called him on a Wednesday evening in early November. He didn't answer. I called again. No answer. I texted, I need to talk to you, it's important. He texted back 3 hours later. Whatever it is, go through my lawyer. We're done, Laura. So I called his mother. Janet Harper answered on the second ring. Laura, I really don't think we have anything to discuss. I'm pregnant, I said. The baby is Daniel's. Silence. Then, excuse me? I'm 14 weeks pregnant. I conceived while Daniel and I were still together, before he left. The timeline is documented. But that's not possible. The doctor said it was unlikely, not impossible. I have a new doctor now, Dr. Patel. She's confirmed everything. I thought Daniel should know. Another silence, longer this time. When Janet spoke again, her voice had changed, gone cold and sharp. Let me be very clear, Laura. If you think you can trap my son with some convenient pregnancy story, you're more desperate than I thought. Daniel made his choice. You are not going to manipulate him back into your life with a baby that probably isn't even his. Janet, I'm not trying to trap anyone. I just thought he had a right to. You're a liar. Her voice cut through mine like a blade. You found some other man, got yourself pregnant, and now you're trying to pass it off as Daniel's. I've seen women like you before. You're pathetic. She hung up. The next day I started getting calls. Daniel's sister Emily, his cousin Mark, his Aunt Susan. All of them with the same message. Leave Daniel alone. Stop harassing the family. Move on with your dignity intact. Nobody asked if the baby was actually his. Nobody wanted to see the medical documentation. They'd already decided I was lying. By the end of November, the rumors had spread through our entire social circle. I heard versions of it everywhere. Laura got pregnant by some random guy and is trying to claim it's Daniel's baby. Laura is delusional. She can't accept the breakup. Laura is a manipulative liar who's trying to destroy Daniel's reputation. I stopped going to our old coffee shop on Main Street, stopped shopping at the grocery store on Elm where Daniel's college friends worked. I drove 20 minutes out of my way to buy milk and bread at a different store where nobody knew my name. Work became my refuge. Harrison Roofing and Construction had been family-owned since 1974. The owner, Tom Harrison, was 67 and had known me since I started as a filing clerk at 26. His daughter Michelle worked as a project manager. His son-in-law ran the installation crews. You doing okay, Laura? Tom asked me one morning in December. I was processing crew schedules for emergency roof repair in the Riverside neighborhood. I'm fine, I said automatically. You don't look fine. You look exhausted. Just pregnant. I tried to smile. It's a lot. The father know? He knows. He doesn't care. Tom studied me for a long moment. His loss, he said finally. You need anything, you tell me. Understand? I nodded, not trusting my voice. That kindness, small, simple, undeserved, almost broke me more than the cruelty had. December came. My belly started showing. I bought maternity clothes from a thrift store on Jefferson Street. Plain shirts and stretchy pants that didn't draw attention. I kept my head down, kept working. Then came the Walmart incident in January. After Janet Harper's public accusation in the produce section, something inside me shifted. Not anger exactly, something colder, something that knew staying quiet wasn't protecting me anymore. It was just making me smaller. I went home that night and pulled out the folder Dr. Patel had given me back in October. Inside were 3 documents. 1. My original diagnosis from Dr. Morrison, dated July, stating severe ovarian dysfunction and near zero conception probability. 2. Dr. Patel's letter, dated October, confirming pregnancy, estimated conception date, mid-August, while Daniel and I were still together, and medical classification as spontaneous remission pregnancy. 3. Prenatal paternity testing consent form, which I'd signed, but Daniel had refused. I also had something else, something I'd been holding on to like a talisman. In September, right after Daniel left, I'd filed a request with our apartment complex for all security footage from August and September. The building had cameras in the hallways and parking lot. I'd told the manager I needed it for insurance purposes, which wasn't entirely a lie. I needed it for proof. The footage showed Daniel and me coming and going together through mid-September, showed him loading his belongings into his truck on September 23rd, showed exactly when our relationship ended, down to the timestamp. If I was going to defend myself, I had receipts, but I didn't know how to use them. Not yet. Making copies and sending them to Daniel felt desperate, exactly what Janet had accused me of. Posting them online felt vindictive. I just wanted the truth to speak for itself. I wanted one chance to stand in front of everyone who'd called me a liar and show them the documents. One chance for the truth to be louder than the rumors. I got that chance on a Thursday in February. Michelle Harrison, Tom's daughter, stopped by my desk around 3 p.m. "Hey Laura, do you have a minute?" "Sure, what's up?" She sat down in the chair across from me, the one we used for client meetings. "So my mom sits on the board for the Cedar Rapids Business Association. They're doing this big charity fundraiser next Friday at the Marriott. Networking event, silent auction, the whole thing. She needs someone to help coordinate the business sponsor tables, and I thought of you." "Me? You're the most organized person I know. Plus, you'd be doing me a huge favor. Mom's been stressed about it for weeks." I hesitated. "Will there be a lot of people?" "Like 200. Local business owners, community leaders, some city council members. It's kind of a big deal." She paused. "You don't have to if you don't want to. I know you've been going through stuff." 200 people, most of whom had probably heard some version of the rumors about me. Or 200 witnesses. What exactly would I need to do? I asked. Just check people in, make sure they find their tables, help with any logistical issues. You'd get a free dinner out of it, plus Michelle's mom is paying $200 for the evening. $200 I could use, but more than that, an opportunity I might not get again. "I'll do it," I said. Michelle smiled. "Thank you. You're a lifesaver." That week, I made copies of my documents. I put them in a manila folder, sealed it, wrote my name on the outside. I practiced what I would say if I got the chance. I tried on 3 different maternity dresses before settling on a plain navy blue one that looked professional, not desperate. On Friday, February 21st, I arrived at the Cedar Rapids Marriott at 5:30 p.m. The ballroom was massive, decorated with white tablecloths and gold centerpieces. Round tables filled the space, each one marked with a business name. The silent auction tables lined the walls, displaying donated items from local companies. A small stage sat at the front with a podium and microphone. I checked in at the registration desk, got my volunteer badge, and started helping guests find their seats. The room filled quickly. I recognized faces from around town: the owner of Henderson Hardware, the woman who ran the bakery on Maple Street, local real estate agents, insurance brokers, restaurant managers. At 6:47 p.m., I saw them. Daniel Harper walked in wearing a charcoal suit. Right behind him came Janet Harper in a burgundy cocktail dress and actual pearls. They were seated at table 12, marked Harper Financial Services, Janet's accounting firm. My stomach dropped. I hadn't known they'd be here. Stupid. Of course they'd be here. Janet was exactly the type to show up at business networking events. I stayed at my post near the registration table, trying to blend into the background. Daniel didn't look my direction. Janet scanned the room with that precise, evaluating gaze she had, taking inventory of who mattered and who didn't. Dinner service started at 7:15 p.m. I helped the catering staff coordinate table assignments, made sure the vegetarian meals went to the right people, solved a seating mix-up for the mayor's table. Stayed busy, stayed invisible. At 8:30 p.m., the speeches began. The MC, a woman named Patricia Chen who owned a marketing firm, took the podium. She thanked everyone for coming, talked about the charity the event was supporting, a local youth mentorship program, and introduced various board members and sponsors. I stood near the back of the room, my folder tucked under my arm. That's when I heard Janet Harper's voice, clear and carrying despite the low conversations around the room. "Oh, I heard she's working here tonight." She wasn't bothering to whisper. "Volunteering, how charitable considering her situation." Her table mates leaned in, interested. Daniel shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. "What situation?" someone asked. "She's pregnant," Janet said. "Claims it's my son's baby, even though they broke up 6 months ago because she's infertile. Can't have children, the doctor confirmed it. But somehow she's pregnant now." She laughed, light and dismissive. "Funny how some women suddenly get pregnant right after trapping another man." My hands tightened on the folder. 3 tables nearby had turned to listen now. At least 15 people heard her, maybe more. "She came to my house," Janet continued, warming to her audience. Crying, begging Daniel to take her back, waving around some fake medical papers. "I told her to leave us alone. You can't force a man to be a father to another man's child." "That's awful," someone murmured. "It is awful," Janet agreed. "She won't let go. She's been harassing Daniel for months. Calling, texting, showing up at family events. I finally had to tell her we'd get a restraining order if she didn't stop." I hadn't called Daniel in 3 months, hadn't been to a single family event. Every word out of Janet's mouth was a lie, but 15 people were nodding along because Janet Harper was respectable. Janet Harper ran a successful business. Janet Harper had no reason to lie. And I was just Laura Bennett, the desperate ex-fiancé with the impossible pregnancy. Something clicked inside me then. Not anger, clarity. I walked toward the front of the room. Patricia Chen had just finished introducing the final sponsor and was about to close the speaking portion of the evening. "Excuse me," I said, loud enough to carry. Patricia looked up, surprised. "Yes?" "I'm sorry to interrupt. My name is Laura Bennett. I'm one of tonight's volunteers." I climbed the 3 steps to the stage, my folder in my hands. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my voice came out steady. "I need just 2 minutes of everyone's time." The room went quiet. 200 faces turned toward me. I found Daniel's table, found Janet's face, her expression shifting from surprise to fury. "This wasn't on the program," Patricia said quietly. "I know. I apologize. But this is important." She looked uncertain but stepped aside. I moved to the podium, set my folder down, opened it with hands that only shook a little. "6 months ago," I said into the microphone, "I was diagnosed with severe ovarian dysfunction. My doctor told me my chances of natural conception were less than 2%. 3 months after that diagnosis, my fiancé Daniel Harper left me because I couldn't give him children. I understood. It hurt, but I understood." I looked at Daniel. He'd gone pale. Janet had half risen from her seat. "6 weeks after he left, I found out I was pregnant. I know how that sounds. I know what people think. That I'm lying, that I'm trying to trap a man who doesn't want me, that the baby can't possibly be his." I pulled out the first document. "This is my original diagnosis from Dr. Edward Morrison, dated July 18th of last year. It confirms severe ovarian dysfunction and states that natural conception is medically unlikely." I held it up. "I'm going to ask Patricia to read it aloud, if that's okay." Patricia took the paper, scanned it quickly, then read the relevant section into the microphone. Her voice was professional, clinical. When she finished, she handed it back to me. I pulled out the second document. This is a letter from Dr. Priya Patel, my current OB specialist, dated October 15th. It confirms that I am pregnant, that conception occurred in mid-August based on fetal development, and that this pregnancy is classified as a spontaneous remission pregnancy, extremely rare but medically documented. I handed it to Patricia. She read it slower this time. When she got to the conception date, August 14th to 19th, I saw her eyes flick to Daniel. Daniel and I were still together in August, I said quietly. We were engaged, we lived together. He didn't leave until September 23rd. I have apartment security footage showing him moving out on that date. I have text messages. I have our shared calendar. The room was utterly silent now. You could have heard a pin drop. Janet stood up. This is inappropriate. This is a business event, not— You made it about me 30 minutes ago, I said, looking directly at her. You told 15 people that I'm harassing your family, that I'm trying to trap Daniel with another man's baby. You said I came to your house with fake medical papers. You did come to my house, Janet snapped. I called you once, to tell Daniel I was pregnant because I thought he had a right to know. You called me a liar and hung up on me. Since then, I haven't contacted either of you, not once. You can check Daniel's phone records. I pulled out the third document. This is a consent form for prenatal paternity testing. It's non-invasive, just a blood draw from me and a cheek swab from the father. I signed it in October. I asked Daniel to sign it too, through his lawyer. He refused. If this baby isn't his, Daniel, you could have proven that 5 months ago. You chose not to. I set the paper down on the podium. I'm not here for revenge, I said. My voice cracked slightly, but I pushed through. I'm not here to force anyone to be a father or to ruin anyone's reputation. I'm here because for 6 months people have been calling me a liar. For 6 months I've stayed quiet because I thought maybe if I just disappeared the rumors would stop. I looked around the room at all those faces, some sympathetic now, some still skeptical, some just shocked. They didn't stop, and tonight I realized that staying silent wasn't protecting me, it was just letting the lies get louder. I picked up my folder, closed it carefully. These documents are available for anyone who wants to see them. Dr. Patel's office number is on the letterhead. Dr. Morrison's office can confirm my original diagnosis. The timeline is documented. The truth is documented. I stepped back from the podium. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your time. I'm sorry for the interruption. I walked down the stage steps. My legs felt like water. The room stayed silent as I moved toward the back exit. Then someone started clapping, slow at first. I turned and saw Tom Harrison on his feet, applauding. Then Michelle stood up. Then others, the bakery owner, a few people from the mayor's table, more and more until maybe 50 people were clapping. Not everyone, not even half, but enough. I looked back at table 12. Daniel had his head in his hands. Janet Harper's face had gone from burgundy to white, her mouth pressed into a thin line. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at the people around her, the ones who'd listened to her gossip 30 minutes ago and were now staring at her with very different expressions. I left through the side door before anyone could stop me. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes, shaking. Not crying, just shaking like all the adrenaline in my body had nowhere to go. My phone buzzed. A text from Michelle. Holy shit, Laura. Are you okay? I typed back, I think so. Another text. This one from a number I didn't recognize. This is Patricia Chen from the fundraiser. I want you to know what you did took incredible courage. If you need anything, please reach out. Then another. Hi, Laura. This is Dr. Morrison's nurse. He asked me to text you. He wants you to know he's available if you need any additional documentation or support. 4 more texts came in over the next hour. People I barely knew, people who'd been in that room, people who wanted to say they believed me. Not everyone. I'm sure plenty of people left that fundraiser thinking I was still lying, still desperate, still pathetic. But enough people saw the truth. Enough people heard it from my own mouth instead of Janet Harper's. That was all I needed. The next week was strange. I kept expecting fallout, angry calls, legal threats, something. Nothing came. Daniel didn't contact me. Janet didn't contact me. It was like they'd both just vanished. Then on Thursday, Tom called me into his office. "So I got an interesting phone call this morning," he said, leaning back in his chair. "From Janet Harper." My stomach tightened. What did she want? She wanted to know if we were planning to keep you employed given your unstable behavior and tendency toward public disruptions. He made air quotes with his fingers. She suggested it might be a liability for our business. Tom, I'm so sorry. I never meant to. He held up a hand. I told her that your personal life is none of my business, that you're the best office manager I've had in 40 years, and that if she calls here again trying to get you fired, I'll personally make sure everyone in the Cedar Rapids Business Association knows she attempted to sabotage an employee's career out of spite. I stared at him. You said that? I did, and I meant it. He smiled slightly. Michelle told me what happened at the fundraiser. Took guts, kid. I'm proud of you. That's when I finally cried. In March, something else happened. I was filing invoices when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Is this Laura Bennett? A man's voice, unfamiliar. Yes? My name is Robert Hayes. I'm an architect. I was at the business fundraiser last month. I didn't remember him. Okay. I just wanted to call and say what you did that night was remarkable. I've been in situations where I had to defend my reputation, and I know how hard that is. You handled it with a lot of grace. Thank you, I said, not sure where this was going. Would you be interested in getting coffee sometime? No pressure. I just thought maybe you could use a friend who doesn't have an opinion about your ex-fiancé. I laughed despite myself. That would be nice. We met for coffee the next Saturday at a place called Brew Point on 3rd Avenue. Robert was 41, soft-spoken, with kind eyes and a calm presence that felt like the opposite of Daniel's restless energy. We talked for 2 hours about everything except the fundraiser. He told me about his daughter from his first marriage, about the house he was renovating, about his work designing community centers and libraries. He didn't ask about my pregnancy until our 3rd coffee meeting, and when he did, he phrased it carefully. Is the father involved? No, I said. He chose not to be. His loss, Robert said simply. And somehow I believed him. We started dating slowly, carefully. He came to one of my prenatal appointments in April and held my hand during the ultrasound. He helped me paint the nursery in my apartment in May, pale yellow, gender neutral, with white curtains and a second-hand crib from Michelle's sister. On June 12th at 6:42 a.m., I gave birth to a baby boy, 7 pounds 3 ounces, perfect. I named him Thomas, after Tom Harrison, who'd stood up for me when it mattered. The hospital asked if I wanted to list a father on the birth certificate. I left it blank. Daniel had made his choice. I wasn't going to force him to make a different one now. But I did keep one thing. In the envelope of documents Dr. Patel had given me, there was a 4th item I hadn't shown at the fundraiser, a DNA sample collection kit, the kind they use for prenatal paternity testing. I'd had it processed privately in November, paying out of pocket, $847 I could barely afford. The results came back in January. Probability of paternity, 99.9%. I kept that document in a safety deposit box at the bank on Harrison Street. Not to trap anyone, not for revenge, just for Thomas. In case he ever asks. In case he ever needs to know that his father walked away from a choice, not from a lie. I married Robert Hayes on a Saturday in September, almost exactly 1 year after Daniel left. It was a small ceremony at the courthouse with Michelle and Tom as witnesses. Thomas was 3 months old, wearing a tiny blue suit Robert's mother had sent. We moved into Robert's house on Maple Ridge Road, the one he'd been renovating. It had a yard for Thomas, an office for Robert's drafting table, and a kitchen with a window that actually closed all the way. I still work at Harrison Roofing and Construction, still process invoices and schedule crews and answer phones. Still love the steady rhythm of work that's mine. Sometimes I see Janet Harper around town, at the grocery store on Elm, At the coffee shop on Main, she doesn't speak to me, doesn't even look at me, just walks past like I'm invisible. I prefer it that way. Daniel sent a card when Thomas was born. No name on the return address, but I recognized his handwriting. Inside was a generic message. Congratulations on your new arrival. And nothing else. No apology, no acknowledgement, no request to be involved. I threw the card away. Robert never knew about it. Here's what I learned. You can have all the evidence in the world, all the documented proof, all the medical records and timestamps and receipts, and some people still won't believe you. Some people need you to be the villain in their story because it's easier than admitting they were wrong. But you only need enough people to believe the truth. Not everyone, just enough. If you're watching this and you've ever been called a liar for telling the truth, type, "I told the truth anyway," in the comments. Or if you're still carrying around proof that no one wants to see, type, "I'm still holding the receipts. Both are valid. Both take courage." If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here. I'm sitting in my kitchen right now, watching Thomas play with wooden blocks on the floor. Robert's at his drafting table in the next room. The window is open, and there's a warm breeze coming through, carrying the smell of the roses we planted last spring. 6 months ago, I was terrified my son would grow up believing his mother was a liar. Now I know he'll grow up seeing a mother who stood in front of 200 people and told the truth anyway. That's enough.